Welcome to the Building Savvy Bottom Line. I'm your host, Beverly Smyrnus. Our bottom line goal is to ensure that building or remodeling a home is a seamless and enjoyable process, helping builders and their customers better understand each other's challenges, expectations, and industry norms. This episode is brought to you by The Ultimate Guide to Buying and Building in Texas, an online course for Texas newbies or anyone making their first home purchase in Texas. To learn more, visit buildingsavvy.com. I'd like to welcome to the studio today Patrick Harrington. Patrick is with BlueSky Consulting and Construction Services. Tell us about your business, Patrick.
Well, a little history is I grew up in the home building business and I was a custom builder for about 25 years from 1977 until 2004 when I discovered a different option for the home building business. And that was to teach and or train people to act as their own general contractor. The way I present it to folks is I bring all the resources you could possibly need to act as your own general contractor.
And that saves your customers quite a bit of money, right?
Quite a bit, quite a bit. I get the question all the time. So what I did was I took my fee and converted it into a percentage, that isn't how I calculate my fee. My fee is based on the footage of the project, but I converted it to a percentage so that when I talk to people, I can say a builder will charge you 15 to 20% margin. And in the good days, it might be 25 or 30%, but my fee calculates out to about 5 to 7%. So right there is the savings that I can show in black and white numbers. 9 times out of 10, I'm working with people that already have plans and have already been sorely disappointed by the dollar numbers they got from the builders that bid on their plans. The savings that they incur as they go through their project varies from person to person. Some people save that money and close their construction loan 50 grand less than it was taken out for, or they take that money and ended up upgrading different things in the house.
Probably a lot of people don't understand how detailed the permitting and inspection and all that. Tell us about how you help them through that process.
Now, when we start off, we're not going to know what they need. They don't know what they need. I certainly give them a sequential list of what's going to happen. They can find themselves within that list and say, oh, I've already done this, this, and this. It looks like we're starting on item number 6 or whatever. Suffice it to say, building out in the county or outside of a municipality is drastically simpler and easier than building in the city. You know, the client has the choice. They can go online and secure a permit through the city of Houston and jokingly tell people, if you want to learn the wonders of the bureaucracy of the city of Houston, dive into that. It's all about what you want to learn and what you want to take on. But if not, I have these fun people called permit runners, and I'll connect you with a permit runner and you will probably thank me. That's just one of the details.
I know that in different areas within the Houston marketplace, each municipality has its own set of standards and inspection practices and different rules that they require. So finding somebody like you that has skill in whichever area they're going to build in is important.
That's a great example. There's areas like Bel Air and Westview have very different permit departments and inspection departments from the city of Houston. And they have what I call little quirky requirements, because they don't publish all these things. They don't publish a checklist per se. And if they do, it usually goes out of date about 3 weeks and they don't redo another one. So I have to say, to me, it's also, I learn enormous amount of things from every project that I get involved in. New things pop up. I mean, in construction, the only absolute is things will come up.
You help them select their teams of subcontractors, which is a huge service, very difficult in the industry. Labor is a big issue. So having somebody that's vetted and that you recommend that you've worked with before, that you know you can count on to do an honest job and a good job, it's super important. They contract directly with the subcontractor themselves in this program.
They do it in the exact fashion that a builder would. And let me say, a builder that's on top of his business, meaning putting out subcontractor agreements, being very clear about what the expectations are, a very clear payment plan, that kind of. And that's really what I spend most of my time creating with my clients.
If your client hires a subcontractor and they start to have problems with them, you can step in and help with that too to get it resolved, move past it.
I have a project going right now in the Heights in Houston where I had a framer that had done lots of work for me over the years. And for some reason, he went south. And luckily, this client had listened to what I said about not paying them over what they have accomplished. Percent completion is the only way to pay them. And if you can get below that percent of completion, that's great. Luckily, this client had not paid the guy as much as he asked for. So the man was very willing to cooperate and got him finished up. I mean, working with subcontractors has got to be the largest aspect of any construction project.
So part of that process is you help your clients by recommending various subcontractors and give them a list of what they need or what services that they're looking for, and then check those bids and help them compare the bid to make the best decision about which company to use.
Exactly. In the pre-construction phase of the work with the client, the way I describe that is it's like doing your project on paper, but I create a budget. I'm sending bid requests out to my network of contractors, getting those back in specifically to build a budget. Now, the real shopping comes in once they're under construction, because then they have a budget number as their target. And they're really free to solicit bids from whomever. Once they start their construction project, I always tell them the subcontractors will start finding you. Right now, I'm getting subcontractors calling me, asking me if I have projects that they can bid on. They can have other people bid, and then they've got that target budget.
And having somebody like you to check that bid to make sure that each specific detail that's needed, maybe it's HVAC specifications or energy calculations or whatever. Most consumers that don't do this every day need somebody like you to quarterback them through that process.
Sure. I mean, I got to say this, if a subcontractor can get away with getting out a scope of work because it's not specifically described on his proposal, and he's gotten into the job and said, oh, I should have bid this for more. Yeah, they'll start going sideways a little bit. And yeah, I'm there to keep them on the straight path. And let's get this thing done.
A lot of the coaching and preparation is done up front in the education process. This is what to expect.
One of my sayings is, tell me and I may hear, show me and I may learn, get me involved and I will know it. So that's my way of saying I can probably talk for the next 3 years about all the things to learn in construction. And until you get in there and start doing the day-to-day, it's not going to make a lot of sense.
You're kind of like an unbiased third party to rein everyone in.
The way I describe it is there's lots of moving parts towards the ends of finishing a project. Lots of moving parts. But again, I've played that game for 20 years as a custom builder. I know what worked for me, and I relate that to the client, which is making a checklist and checking things off a certain way so you can keep track of all the different moving parts that are happening at the same time. Some people just whiz right through that like it was no big deal. Other people tend to get hung up on it. So every client I have is different, and I don't know how the client's going to be handling a project until we really get into it. I find women to be the best project managers. One thing I tell people is don't try to fit your program into what I'm saying necessarily, but glean things that work for you and manage the project the way you manage the daily things that happen in your life.
You do workshops people can sign up for, and then you provide these manuals to your clients that actually undertake the process. So the workshops, they're just preliminary to see if this arrangement might be the right decision for somebody.
Right. That's one of the workshops I put on. I just did one about 2 weeks ago. I call it Owner Builder Advantage. But then I also put on workshops about various scopes of work in the construction process, like foundation, framing, site work, all those different things I just like to teach. I get a lot of people that sign up for those just home building workshops. So I'm putting the knowledge out there as best I can.
Yes, the more you know about the process, the more you know what to look for.
And the less intimidated you'll be by it. I run into people that they go, oh my God, I could never do that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, if you say that, then you're right. That's one of the biggest talking points that I approach in the workshop is that, yes, there's a natural knee-jerk reaction that, oh my God, I could never do anything like that. But building a house is not rocket science. You follow a system, you follow a schedule, you follow kind of the basic tenets of construction, and you can successfully finish a project.
You have been part of the industry for a long time. I know you're active with builders associations and different things. Tell us about some of your history there.
Well, my dad was the president of the Greater Houston Builders Association in 1970. He would pull me along to those builder luncheons and dinners since I was, 12 years old. He was in the business and he was very involved. And of course, I was as a custom builder. The interesting thing is when I became a consultant for owner builders, one of the thoughts that went through my mind is, oh my gosh, am I betraying my builder buddies? And all of a sudden I woke up one morning, wait a minute, I'm working with people that my builder buddies would hate to work with. These are people that want almost 100% control. They want to be shown options, but they don't want to be told what to do. I could see both sides of the fence because as a builder, I remember many times where I got into tug of wars with my clients because they wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. That I wanted to do was going to bring the project to completion quickly, whereas their idea was not. And, in the building world, time is money. And if you're a custom home builder, that time going by without your being successfully moving the project is tough.
And I know a custom builder can make a mistake on the front end and they have to finish a project with very little margin.
Yes, and I will say with the really professional good builders out there, their margin is well earned.
Yes, it is. It is.
I just talk to people about this being another option. It may not be for you, but at least sit down for an hour and a half or so and listen to the program and look at what's involved and make a decision from there.
I think what you're doing is really interesting. What do you expect for the future? What will happen with the process? Will it change or is it going to stay the same? What do you think?
Modular construction. I'm a big proponent of modular construction.
Yeah.
Which is different than manufactured homes. There's a few companies that will build houses in their factory, bring them out to your property and put them on a lot. And I've actually consulted people and told them, hey, your best bet is to go this route. Here's some companies to call.
We talked about the human factor. When you think about building a wall and all the various things that go in the wall, the framing and the insulation and the sheathing and the drywall and all those different things. And anytime there's a human factor involved, there's more mistakes that can happen. No matter how good of products that you choose, if they're not put on right, or you can have a problem. And so I agree with you that those panelized wall solutions built in factories, when that was first introduced, we thought of it as subpar, but people are starting to understand that it's premium.
Unfortunately, the word prefab was created. If that word had never existed, we might have an easier time transitioning into modular houses. But yeah, the word prefab pops into most people's heads.
Yes.
When you start talking about that.
Doesn't have to be a square box either. It can be just as custom as you want it to be.
There's all sorts of new technology coming out there. I've had clients that even did pole framing for the framing of their house. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not, but it's an amazing process where the structure, the shell of the house itself is just some poles that have been sunk into the ground. And then you put the siding on there. A lot of people call it a pole barn. Well, I've had clients build the pole barn for an amazingly low price, and then build out the living spaces inside, almost like a barn-dominium type concept. In barn-dominiums, that's another subject. People think they're cheaper. Those things are made out of red iron steel. Yes. And red iron steel is probably twice as much as lumber right now. So I've had some projects be put on hold because they wanted a barn-dominium until steel went nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And they're rethinking it. But that's an opportunity for me to get down with them and sharpen the pencil and see what's going to work.
But it must be great to have somebody like you to call because they got to have lots of questions.
I tell the clients when I'm sitting down with them in the very beginning, the more communication we have, the better this project's going to be. It's the ones that I don't hear from for weeks at a time that worry me. I lay awake at night. What's happening over there? And then many times I'll pick up the phone and call them. Just say, give me an update.
You've been doing this owner builder program for about 20 years now.
Yeah, since 2004.
And you've helped hundreds of people do this successfully. What made you decide to do this?
I found the consulting side of the business in 2004 off of an employment ad in the Houston Chronicle. Remember when they used to have those?
Yes.
Tiny little ads? I lost both of my parents. And so the family business was, let's say, shut down for lack of a better term. And I was beginning to look at what I wanted to do next. And I went to a business coach. And in the conversation, it came out that I loved teaching. And then that ad showed up and they were looking for a construction consultant. That's the person that works with the client once they get into construction. So I stepped in and started working with that company. And then after a certain number of years, I just looked at everything and said, I can create my own company. So I did.
You make a difficult, very complex process into a much easier process and an enjoyable process. I really want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today, and I love what you do.
Thanks for having me today, Beverly.